Being, and we're live. It's Sam and Rose and Richard. It is Tuesday. It's time for another BetaSaaSer AutoGrader instructor Spocker something or other. Just find another anagram to describe us. Yes, Richard. How are things with you?
Um, we're good. This is my little break, so that's why I'm doing this.
I thought you were looking calm and relaxed. There was a sort
Yeah.
of a
Well,
calm.
I shouldn't be because right after this, I'm going to be starting to get anxious. All this stuff I didn't get done that I
Okay.
need to do the next day or two,
Uh-huh.
and this conversation may help in that.
Let's see. Yes. So, anything to add to the agenda? Anything particular that you want to cover today?
I didn't check the agenda this week just because I was a little off schedule.
Yeah, no worries. Yes. Oh, and I think you will find that the agenda doesn't actually include anything at the moment because I'm just creating it. So it's wide open for you to add things to if you'd like.
Okay. Mainly, what I'm interested in doing is following up on your textbook and C9 whatever updates.
Yeah.
And so we have links. I see the links, and you have the GitHub and the other project tracker. What is that called?
The waffle. Well, there's waffle.
Waffle.
But it's it's GitHub issues. But yeah.
And I'm basically trying to figure out, and that's why I figured maybe some advice from you, like the best way to use that, because I see that it's marked up in terms of categories and labeled that way. Here's where I'm coming from. I'm about to start the Rails stuff. I had the students work in a lab on the chapter 1 of that Rails intro Rails tutorial. And so they got that whole thing, and normally what I would have done now would be the chapter 4 walkthrough, and then assign sort of break up and assign the homework too, and so that's I have to sort of get all that ready in the next day or two if I'm going to do that or change things around, and I and the TAs have to do the chapter 4 walkthrough if we're going to assign that, and I'm just. I figured, I just started looking at your notes, and I'm just trying, I guess I would look for advice on the best way to utilize that in the process that I just described.
Okay. And you haven't released homework 2 yet then?
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
I know that I saw that you updated my Spock based on anticipated, and where I was coming from that date last week was just saying that's when I'm going to be introducing Rails however I was doing it, but I was actually planning to wait until after the break to assign the homework.
That's all fine. Rose, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can. For some reason the Hangouts crashed on me a few times, so it took me a bit to get back.
Yeah. Well, welcome back. Is there anything that you'd like to add to the agenda?
Okay, I'm just now seeing it.
Well, it only has. I'm going to talk to Richard about the chapter 4 walkthrough. So it's
okay.
Yeah, anything? But I mean, are there any? Are you stuck on anything in particular that we need to make sure?
No, actually, we worked through a few things last night. We are doing homework too. They did the walkthrough last week. Some of them were having trouble and different problems because what's happened in my class is some of the students have elected, because this is all so new to them, to use the information in the book and just strictly work with the older version of Rails for now. Okay. And then other students who are more adventurous are actually doing it in Rails 4. And they both seem to be successful, so I'm not complaining. We had some issues with Heroku where they claim, and I told them, I said, you can't just tell me this, you have to write it down. They claim that the instructions are slightly different than as were listed in the book for deploying to Heroku. They initially had a few problems, but then they got through it. So, now this morning I'll be connecting with a few of the students just to be sure that they got through all the stuff in terms of, is the AutoGrader okay with what they did?
Yes, indeed. Okay.
Yeah. The
Um,
AutoGrader was a little flaky for a day or two, but
I
then.
mean, I think it's always flaky, and then sometimes we notice, and sometimes we don't. Yeah. I mean, it all, there's certainly, I mean,
Right.
it was certainly down. Well, I mean, there's two graders now. There's a new grader and the old grader. Richard certainly had, he flagged it being down, and it got rebooted as a result of Richard's concern. So yeah, I mean, yes, it's a flaky system, or which sometimes.
Right. Well, I mean, the other aspect is, and I keep on telling my students this, when these things are happening, you need to let me know.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
I wish I had that crystal ball, but I don't know, it's just too expensive for my budget right now.
Indeed, indeed. Yeah, well, yes, it's difficult to say. But
The crystal ball app.
yeah.
So Rose, you and your students are just using the original homework 2.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I had planned to migrate to all the new stuff, and I worked all summer on making sure I was up to speed on Rails 4 and everything else. And then my department said, because of the ABET thing, they said, no, we want you to keep everything the same this semester because, we're fearful of God only knows what.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, we actually got through our ABET review last week, finally, after this, year and a half long effort. So I think I might be sane for a little while. I hope.
Cool. Yeah. Yay for sanity.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's interesting. Yeah, it sounds like. I mean, you mentioned something that Rose, you're in the Heroku deploy. There have been various things. I mean, the list has been quite active recently.
Mm-hmm.
He said, trying to bring up the list, and
Mm-hmm.
I've just had an email actually from Richard from your TA, and I've just given him access to the things that he needs some access to, which includes the source book, which is the things that you're looking at as well.
Okay.
But if we look at the list, the things that are particularly relevant to both of you recently is that Baoshan Liu, I haven't looked at this, has apparently he's got some slides here of
Yeah.
So you've seen this already.
I have, that's on my, that I have seen, but I haven't gone through it. I sort of jumped into just looking at your stuff for this meeting.
Yeah. No. Okay. Cool.
Okay, so that's probably that's a good resource because we're planning to replicate something like that, and we can just
I mean,
go from there.
Sure. I guess so. What I was hearing Rose say was that what I was hearing Rose say is that some of the students are doing it on the new thing, and some of them are doing it on the old, and just it's kind of coming out in the wash, so to speak. And yeah, I mean, particularly homework 2, because the grading of that only depends upon functionality in the site. There's nothing to stop. There's nothing particularly to go wrong, I think, in doing it on Rails 4 as opposed to Rails 3.
Does not appear that there's a problem with that.
Yeah,
that's interesting. I mean, would there be any change necessary for the new AutoGrader based on that realization?
No, I mean, because it's only the homework 2 grader only tests through the front end interface.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, that would only be if somehow something was slightly different in the deployed site.
No, I mean, it would only be if somehow I mean, but since it's only there's nothing in principle to prevent you in Rails 4 replicating the functionality that you need in the front end. It's not going to be until homework 3 and maybe the graders for homework 3 and homework 4 we could it's like rolling. You could roll a 666. That could be absolutely fine. I mean, I don't know. I would be even more surprised. I'm not surprised if homework 2 doesn't care about Rails 3 versus Rails 4. I'll be increasingly surprised if it causes no problems for the subsequent.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about this week when we start the Cucumber testing, because of course the book is using an older version.
Yeah, absolutely. Although in principle, if you're using the old values, if you're using the old libraries, then it will still work as is. But
is it backward compatible? Because that's my biggest question.
Yeah, I think probably not. I would be surprised. I would be surprised if it was, shall we say?
Really?
Yes, because I think what happens in, for example, homework 3 is it's relying upon. I mean, it could still work. It's sort of the way homework 3 grader works is it takes your kind of cucumber stories and your Rotten Potatoes app, which you're doing all of, and then it kind of replaces part of your Rotten Potatoes app with like a modified version that can then fail in certain ways. It could still work. I mean, I haven't tested it, and I would be very surprised if there wasn't some kind of issue. What I notice as well, this is you mentioning Heroku, Rose. We've got Michael Videcchio. He's talking about something about Appendix 9, and yeah. So if your students were saying, the books thing on Heroku, it's slightly different from that, I would say yes. I would imagine it is, and I think I may have. I don't know if I actually did a Heroku deploy of my thing, but there's certainly entirely likely that the book is out of date. It's
Sure. And one of the things that I said to them is the challenge with open source is often we've got a moving target here, and that's part of the learning experience.
Absolutely. It's sort of, it's not just a question of doing exactly what you're told. It's like, okay, so things are work out how to fix it. Cool. And we've got, so I mean there are posts relevant for both of your things. I mean, talking about the chapter 4 walkthrough, I mean, Richard's asking, so what we have, by the way, is we have this sourcebook read-only repository, which has both Rose, Richard, and now also I've invited your TA, Richard, and this is the thing that allows you to see the actual repository of the, right? This is the repository for the actual textbook itself.
Right. And I have, just so you know, I have 2 other TAs and definitely one other one that would probably be interested. This has to go through you. I don't have access to add these guys.
No, this goes, just get them to get me their IDs. But yeah, I mean, the thing that, I mean, whether you're using Waffle or what you're using here, I mean, the thing to do is look at the, I don't know if there's a way to, let's have a look, if I've got a way to sequence this specifically to, I mean, I worked through the book chronologically. So, if we look at here, it starts there, Pruder, listen to more Ruby chapter. Basically, this is me working through the Ruby chapter. Then, from reverse down here, so this is my chapter 4, right? So in order, these are the issues that I encountered working through chapter 4 and doing everything on C9.
Okay, and it's in a reverse chronological.
Yeah, I mean exactly. This is how in this view. I mean the waffle view of it is not necessarily of particular use to you guys.
Yeah.
If you're just using it to refer to how might I fix any issue that comes up in chapter 4. You've got it here in reverse chronological, and you've got the working code is here, right? You've seen this. Yeah, this is the app. I mean, this is not just chapter the end. This is after having done all of the chapters that have code in them in the textbook.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
let me ask. This may be an outdated question, but I'll ask it anyway. Let's assume we were coming from scratch, like the way you were, and just trying to work through the textbook without any hand holding in Cloud 9. Is it something that someone with a reasonable sort of problem-solving skills would be able to sort of just see the errors and fix them as needed, or are there a bunch of subtleties?
Well, I'm a difficult person to ask that. all of the things. None of them were, particularly for chapter 4. Yeah. None of them were that complex. But then for me, I mean, I guess that the biggest change, if you're working through the chapter 4, is this whole thing about attribute accessible. Yeah. So we've got exactly that. Like you just don't use it anymore, right? This is the era that.
No, that's the kind of thing that if someone didn't have that conceptualization, they may start going down there and get all confused.
Well, yeah, they might, like in the textbook, it tells them to put attribute accessible in there. They will get this error, right? Which, and this is the kind of thing, for a reasonable person, from my point of view, would Google that error and would, soon discover things saying about how Rails 3 is different from Rails 4 and so on and so forth. Anybody who was not very confident might just say, hey, this doesn't work, this book sucks, this course sucks, why the fuck am I doing any of this? Kind of thing. You know what I mean?
I heard that last night. I heard that.
So
from several students who then, when it was explained to them to do just what you suggested, they then bashfully said, well, it wasn't that hard.
Right. Once it's it's all about setting expectations, isn't it? About, saying it's what people. I mean, the interesting thing that what we've just done with all of our materials for the bootcamp that we've got is we've just challengified them. So what we've done is, all of the stuff that we had that were tutorials, and we had over the years, like all sorts of problems with people saying, well, this doesn't do what you said it does, right? But so we've now changed all of our materials. So we're not telling anybody to do anything anymore. We've turned everything into a challenge, right? I mean, some of them are really micro things, like just setting up a project and this, that, and the other. But we've just changed it around. So the whole expectation is always that the student is solving a problem. Never
that's great.
The student is following instructions to get something done, and then those instructions can go out of date, right? I mean, we also provide, solutions, but that's like, rather than the tutorial where the tutorial is the solution and then you step through, it's like everything is in terms of, here's a challenge that you must undertake, and here are some resources that might be helpful, see if you can do it. So it's all about
I like
getting
that philosophy.
Yeah.
For sure, if the students are up for it, and I have some students that I got feedback from that's like, oh, we really liked the last lab class because I told them exactly what to do in that, by following through that tutorial that we the Hartle tutorial. So that's more just, for me, it's not the best learning experience, but at least keeping a few students sort of happy.
Yeah, I mean, there's some people who are just not up for that, being challenged. They just want to be told what to do and have it work and have a nice,
And who knows, maybe that helps them get over the hump the next time. Who knows?
Absolutely. Well, then there's the scaffolding for that. Absolutely. Yes, I mean, there's just that ends up with the emphasis on. I mean, this is like what Michael Hartle. I mean, I think Michael Hartle puts a lot of work in to make sure that his tutorial is up to date and is something that can just be followed. Yes. Anyhow,
I got some feedback from students that took the course last semester.
Yeah.
And have since graduated and are working in various places. Mm-hmm. And they said that they felt the course really prepared them for the challenges that they faced at work, and that it was good that everything wasn't just spoon-fed.
Yeah, well, I think that parallels with the feedback that I think Dave and Armando have had from their course, is that the students who have yet to graduate tend to rate the course not as well as those who do graduate. And
of course.
I think they say like, I mean, the ones who are still like, they're like, kind of, why it was like, that was all kind of like a messy kind of thing. And if they haven't graduated yet, they're like, why is there messy stuff? And the ones who have graduated who have encountered the messy reality of the real world are like, oh yeah, okay, I see. Right, that's
life is messy.
Yeah. Okay.
By definition.
So I hope, Richard, that helps you with the idea of the Chapter 4 walkthrough. I mean, I think for me, it seems like, a future rewrite of the book. But I mean, even the students who might prefer to be just sort of told, even like if the book was written in such a way that it said, okay, here is this challenge, you could still present the solution kind of in the next part or what have you. But it's like, rather than presenting it as here's something that will work, you just present it as here's something that we're not sure how to do. Here are some resources that potentially help you do it. Have a go at doing it yourself. And then, by the way, here's our solution, which you know, we hope would be up to date. But I think that
well, which may or may not be up to date, actually.
Yeah, which you know, which can have a proviso, which says, you know, this was up to date, you know, on this date, but it's open source and things may change, you know. So, but I think if you're going into it with the mentality of, okay, here's something where it's a challenge that I'm going to try and accomplish, rather than here's some instructions that I'm going to follow, then, you know, I think maybe that's. I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I think Armando and Dave don't necessarily have an appetite for completely right of the book, but yes, we'll see. Okay. Well, have we? Go on.
Yeah, I mean, really, Sam, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I really believe that the way the text is worded needs to kind of move towards expressing that philosophy.
Okay.
I think it's better all around for everyone, and will again with respect to expectations, will be less frustrating in the long run for people who, you know, maybe have the wrong idea. I mean, it's open source.
Right. And that's not, you know, there's out of the box, particularly the general. I think the education system on both sides of the Atlantic doesn't really prepare people for that. It's the
not
expectation.
Anymore.
It's sort
not
of.
Anymore.
Or did it ever? I mean, it's like you know, when one is teaching maths in school, right? It's like, here's some things. Now here are some problems that you should expect to be able to solve based on what we've just taught you, right? That's the basic model that we have for Western education, and yeah, it's like that's kind of doesn't really encompass open source. Anyway, there we go. I think we have kind of. Is there anything else that we need to cover today? I haven't generated any.
I mean, I'm good for now, especially looking at the clock.
I'm good.
Yeah. And I think, you know, I mean, the action item we generated is Richard get TAs to send GitHub IDs to Sam. That's, you know, about the size of it. Yeah, I mean, I guess with the key thing becomes, you know, how to release chapter walkthrough, what to tell the students. Yeah, we've got like a big mixed bag of stuff, and ultimately that's sort of left in your hands, Richard.
Right. In fact, let me throw this out at you. I don't think there's anything there, but if like there was an editable source of Chapter 4 walkthrough, right, we could flag that. And I'm assuming that's not available. So
no, well, I think in some ways the thing to do is like, I think sensibly, Richard, or at least one of your TAs, do the Chapter 4 walkthrough and kind of, you know, like maybe using this as a guide is just like flag, you know, here are the issues, the major issues you'll encounter if you're using this walkthrough. And I mean, again, I don't know. It sort of depends if you want to release it as a pure walkthrough or as a challenge-based thing. Anyway, I'm going to have to kind of go into another meeting now, I'm afraid.
Yeah, that's fine. I was just throwing that out. When we're going to keep notes, and it's just a question of how best to communicate that with the students, but I'll figure something out. And I just, you know, if you have anything that could help, let me know.
I mean, I guess what I might even think about doing is like turning it into a series of high-level challenges. I'm inspired by Rose liking that. Anyway, I got to
okay, Sam, let me throw this out. Like, if I had a PDF of that of the chapter, I could put like little asterisks, as like here might be a problem, or like.
Yeah, you could do.
But we don't have anything like that. I can easily annotate.
Exactly.
Not to hand, but I'll ask Armando about it. We'll see what we can do.
Okay, cool.
Anyway,
be a great idea. Hey, thanks, Sam.
Chatting. You're welcome, guys. I'll speak to you next week, if not before. Feel free to carry on chatting, but I got to jump into another meeting.
Okay,
sure.
Thanks, Sam.
Bye for now.
Yeah. Take care. Hey, Richard.
Hi.
Hope things are going well for you too.
Yeah. We're you know, I'm muddling through. So all your students working in the virtual machine, or do you have a few working on Cloud9?
I have students. I mean, it's crazy this semester. Some of them are working. Most of them are working on Cloud9. Some of them are working in the virtual machine. Basically, we're using the virtual machine as kind of, if you are having problems and you can't figure, you're having too much trouble to figure out how to solve it, fall back to the virtual machine and see how it works there. All right.
Yeah.
And so we've had a couple students go back and forth and maybe get some insight. Most of them eventually figure it out on Cloud9. Most of them.
And do you know if the students actually did the Chapter 4 walkthrough?
Oh, they did. We did it in class. Well, basically, a year or so, instead of going back, instead of having a lecture format, we went to a flipped format where we hold the class in the lab.
Yeah.
And it's 2 hours long, and they spend the time, working their projects, doing the walkthroughs in class.
Right. I do that for about 2/3 up to 3/4 of the classes.
Yeah, exactly. We start with a little quiz, then we have a discussion, and then we do work the rest of the time. Okay. And I kind of go around to each team and see how they're doing, and just sort of help out.
And so you told them, hey, just do. I mean, was your assignment just do Chapter 4?
Okay, the assignment was do a walkthrough, and I suggested, because I said, we're not officially upgrading to Rails 4 this semester, as per department dictum, all right, and I suggested that that's what they do. But some of the students, they're highly motivated, and that group, the couple teams that have these highly motivated students in them, they just barge ahead, and they'll do whatever.
So they were doing it in Cloud9. They tried doing the adder accessible. If they didn't know not to ignore it, they got the error and either asked or looked it up. And
then they knew it was one of those changes from 3 to 4, and it didn't really faze them.
Okay. That's good to know. So I think I can pursue that for my class on Thursday.
Right. And the thing I am very worried about is when we go to Cucumber and RSpec.
Yeah. With good reason, with more but you have a fallback in the virtual machine, I guess.
I hope.
You have a little bit of time.
Yeah.
And did you assign homework 2 as it is or was, or?
No, as it is. Yeah. So they worked on it. They worked on it over the weekend. A number of them had a variety. Well, they had a whole variety of issues that we looked at last night. Most of them involving silly little things, really. And by the time we left last night, they'd all been able to upload to Heroku. They were in the process of trying to, tweak mostly the very last part of the assignment. Certain things, the AutoGrader was still saying, "Oh, you're not doing it right."
Yeah.
And
but those are things that independent of older.
Exactly.
Then let me ask you: you have a 2-hour lab with the students?
We go Monday, Wednesday for 2 hours each day.
Each day. Okay.
Yeah.
And so 2 hours twice a week. And then how much of that time did you allocate for the Chapter 4 walkthrough, and how much did you allocate for homework 2?
Well, the walkthrough was last week. They
one class or 2?
Well, kind of 1.5. Yeah. I mean, basically the directive was last week we were supposed to do Chapter 4. I was sick on Wednesday. So Wednesday they kind of ran open loop, but they seemed to do just fine. So Monday we started the walkthrough, and most of them got either all the way through it or